Good evening, Flosstube. It's me again. I just thought I would come share a little bit of a haul video with you. It is Tuesday, August 9th, 2016 at 7:37 p.m., which of course means it'll probably be midday tomorrow before any of you get to see this. However, be that as it may, I am going to work on a new way to make my videos. My husband had an old tripod at work that he couldn't use with his newer cameras, so he saved it for me and brought it home. And as soon as I can figure out how best to use my digital camera to make a video, I'm going to give that a try and see if that produces anything better than my webcam. If that doesn't work too well, I might end up just getting a new HD webcam. We'll see. I don't know. But for now, it just takes for some reason it takes forever to upload a video. I think my last video that I did that was Flosstube related took about 8.5 hours maybe. So at least tonight I won't need the internet when I'm done with this, and I can just let it go and do its thing. And I'll just set it so that it'll publish when it's done, and then I'll let you know with a link on the Stitch Mania page that it's actually posted to my channel. It occurred to me that I've been collecting some stash replenishment. Well, not replenishment, because I haven't really used up all that much in my stash. More like stash enhancement since about mid-June. And back in June, I wasn't even entertaining the idea of making a video. So it kind of piled up, and then once I started doing Flosstube videos, I thought, well, maybe someone out there would like to see my haul. The primary haul that I've gotten this summer is I took total advantage of the Picture This Plus Christmas in July sale and bought 10 pieces of fabric. I don't need 10, but at least I'll have 10 in my stash so that when I decide I want to start something new, I can just whip out a piece of fabric. I got mostly, I think I got about half and half between fat quarters and fat eighths, because you don't need a fat quarter for every piece. So in order to save a little money and what I had budgeted for it, I went with some fat eighths. I did inadvertently order one of the same pieces of fabric twice, so once I get them, which would probably be sometime in October, I'll do a giveaway. Yeah, just a simple giveaway in a video. My mistake will be somebody's gain there. So that was the primary stash enhancement I did over the summer, but there's a few other things along the way that I've accumulated as far as patterns and some floss, and I kitted up what's going to be my first Mirabilia, so I'll get right to it. My first little bit of stash was back in June. I was looking on eBay for vintage cross-stitch patterns because I have an affinity for the older ones that were all hand-drawn. I don't know. Maybe it's because that was still what was around when I started learning how to stitch. But when I saw this one, I went ahead and bought it right away because it took me right back to my childhood. This is the Holly Hobby pattern book. She's just, I remember vaguely from when I was in elementary school that she was a thing. I seem to remember that my mother had some Holly Hobby stuff, like maybe when I was in 2nd or 3rd grade. My memory's fuzzy, but I do remember this little girl from my childhood. And I just loved the pattern. It's one of those old school hand-drawn ones. It's not really going to probably show up very well, but you can see there's nothing fancy about the way the pattern's done. There's several different patterns in here, and the interesting thing to me is that they give you a brown colorway and a red colorway as well, but the traditional Holly Hobby was always the shades of blue. So this is the one that I'm going to stitch eventually in the traditional colorway with the blue patchwork. She's just so cute, and I was curious because I was trying to remember, you know, maybe something that I had or something that I remember Holly Hobby from my childhood. And I looked it up, and there actually is a real Holly Hobby. She's a children's book writer, and she created this character. And she also, I think, created a dog and cat as a pet for Holly Hobby, if I remember what I read correctly. And that there might have been a cartoon based on the pets in the early 80s, but I don't remember that. I just think that's what I read, was that she created this children's story, these children's stories centered around this character. And she's just so sweet. And I mean, it was like total nostalgia. There's nothing else about it, just complete, utter nostalgia when I saw this. So, yeah, I had to. And I'll eventually do her. She's rather small, actually, for, I'm looking here. It said if you stitched her on 18 count, she'd be 7 1/4 by 3 7/8. So, on 14 count, she'd be 9 1/4 by 5. So she's kind of a small pattern, but she's just so sweet. I just love her. So I bought that. The other patterns I bought over the course of the summer, I'll have to put links to the patterns on Etsy, because all I've got are the patterns, the PDF downloads, and I don't think I would be allowed to share those anyway due to copyright things. But one I ordered was from Hug Sandwich. Gotta love that Etsy shop name. I mean, that alone is a reason to buy a pattern from her. But, and I want to say it was Rachel, might have been one of Rachel's videos, but there was somebody did a Flosstube video where they had a slideshow of some of the work they'd finished, and they had a Bob Ross cross stitch, similar to the Clouds Factory patterns. And I was like, oh my god, Bob Ross. Because the day that I saw that video, there had been a meme going around Facebook about Bob Ross and something about, you know, we don't make mistakes, we just make happy accidents. That was one of his things when he painted. And I was like, oh my god, who doesn't want to cross-stitch Bob Ross? So it's a little thing. It's a cute, adorable little pattern, so I ordered that one. And the problem, of course, with ordering patterns on Etsy is they're not that expensive, so then you go buy like 15, 20 of them. Not that I've ever bought that many at a time, but I could if I worked hard enough at it. So then I was looking to see if they had anything arrow related to stitch for my nephew. He's very much into archery. I think he got into it through Scouts, and he joined a local competitive archery club and like a developmental club. And he's been in archery for a few years now. He doesn't shoot compound bow anymore. You always start with compound bow because it's a given that you won't have enough arm strength to get enough tension on the bowstring to actually hit the target. So you have the bows that look like they have the gears, you know, the compound bows that actually help you, you know, learn how, you know, hone your skills. And then you move up to a regular bow and arrow. And he's got the targets that he practices with at home. And, you know, I mean, he's really good with his bow and arrow. I wouldn't have the aim. I remember we did archery when I was in gym class. I think it was in 10th grade. And, you know, they put the balloons on the target for you to hit. And, no. I was like the rejects in the scene in Robin Hood Men in Tights where he's trying to train the guys and their bows are breaking and the arrow just, you know, that scene would be me. But I was looking for an arrow pattern, and I can't right off the top of my head remember who designed it, but I'll put a link in the description box. And it's called Tribal Arrows. And it's really pretty because it's just a target, and then it's got some Indian feathers, you know, really pretty. So that's going to be my birthday gift for him for next year. So that's not something I'm going to start right away. And it's not a relatively big pattern, so I can knock that out in January for his birthday in early March. So I got that one, and then, as much as I have an issue with the pattern, I went ahead and bought it because I can fix it. And this, I don't mean in any way to be insulting to the designer, but it was a pattern, a Star Wars pattern. And you know the Rebel insignia from the original trilogy. Excuse me. Like the crescent-shaped ship was the Rebel insignia. Well, there was a pattern that depicts the binary sunset scene in silhouette in the shape of the Rebel logo. And it's done in all kinds of really cool, like brown and orange spice and earth tones, because of course Tatooine is a desert planet. But my only nitpick with the pattern is it's the binary sunset scene, but she only put one sun in it, or he, whoever designed it, only put one sun in it. So when I stitch that next year, I think that's going to be my silly little May the 4th stitch along for Stitch Mania. And I'll just add an extra sun in, because that is like one of the iconic Star Wars scenes. I mean, when you think of classic Star Wars episodes 4, 5, and 6, You can't tell me you don't think of the binary sunset scene. Even though Luke was a whiny little whatever in that scene and you just want to smack him up the side of his head, that is one of the iconic scenes. So I was a little bit put out when I printed it out. I was like, wait a minute, where's the second sun? But I'll just add it. And it's going to be a cool pattern anyway, but I'll put the links to those below. Because like I said, I don't have anything to show you with that. And then my next little bit of stash was, I decided to go ahead and kit up the Leilani Mirabilia. The one that was the free pattern for the year that Nora Corbett designed. Like I've mentioned, you know, our football team's going to go to Hawaii, and I want to stitch this one as a tribute to the game and as a memory of the game. So I went on Picture This Plus sometime in, I guess it was late June. So it was before the Christmas in July sale, and I ordered. Now this will be a first for me on a couple of fronts. First of all, I've never stitched a Mirabilia. I do have two mirrors. Yeah, I have two mirrors in my collection. I've got the Lady of the Flag, which was the memorial tribute to the victims of 9/11 that she designed. But when I bought that, I'd only been stitching since '92. So I'd only been stitching for 9 years, and I did not feel confident enough to take on a piece that big with Krynic threads and beads and stitched on linen. So Lady of the Flag has been in my stash, and at some point now in the next couple of years, I'm sure I'll start her. But back then I didn't feel, I mean, I knew I wanted it because it was a tribute to the 9/11 victims. It was a gorgeous flag, patriotic theme. But I just never stitched it because I never felt confident enough with my stitching skills. And I think I do now. I've stitched with beads a couple times, and so there's that one in my stash. And then I have the one, I haven't looked at it lately, so I can't remember right off the top of my head which one it is, but it's the one with the fairies that was inspired by William Shakespeare, and it's the 3 fairies, and they've got like the little, they almost look like the little Chinese lanterns on the stick. I can't remember. If I remember the name of it, I'll put a link to it in the description box. But I bought that one when my local needle workshop went out of business. It was a kit that was originally like $60, but because she was trying to liquidate all of her assets, I bought it for, I think it was like $25. And it's got all the beads and the fabric and everything in it. So I do have Mirabilias, just have never stitched one. And when I saw the Hula Girl, I just had to get, I mean, it's perfect timing. So, and another first for me is this is Lugana fabric, which I've never used before. I really like the feel of it. It's 32 count. It's 32 count fat quarter in the masquerade colorway. And it is a gorgeous, like, you can see the purple, the lavender in it, but the overarching color is like this mint green, and it's very tropical. I think if you were doing anything beach related, anything summer related, and you wanted to give it a tropical look, you would probably like the masquerade color from Picture This Plus. It's really, really pretty, and I like the way this fabric feels. So I've never used Lugana before, but I think she'll look really pretty on this. And of course, the third first with this one. The third first, well, you know what I mean. It takes Karen Water Lily's silk threads for a few of the stitches, and I've never in my life used Karen Water Lily's. I seem to remember stitching with something with silk threads not too long ago, but I can't remember what it was. But I've never used Karen Water Lilies. And I may be misremembering. Maybe I just used hand-dyed threads. But these are just so pretty. And they're so soft. Silk threads. You just want to fondle them. Of course, you know, it's a little weird, but that's why I fondle my thread when I'm by myself, right? Hubby won't be home for a while, so I can fondle my thread. Let's see, this one is called Bittersweet, and it's a very lovely, like, I wouldn't call it fuchsia, because it's not really pink enough to be fuchsia, but it's like, it reminds me of the color of like a hibiscus, like a red hibiscus. It's really pretty. It's got some pink in it, but it's primarily red. And then there is this one, which is Tequila Sunrise, which it reminds me of rainbow sherbet. Excuse me, rainbow sherbet. There is no R in D. Yeah, I always pronounce that wrong. I don't know why. But it's yellow, orange, and pink. And that just makes me think of summertime trips to Mr. Swiss, which was a small mom and pop ice cream store in the little town I grew up in. It was right next door to the volunteer fire department, and they, back in the day when I was young enough to really still be scared of it, they still used air raid sirens to call the volunteers to the department. And you'd be sitting right next to the fire department at ground zero when that thing went off, eating your ice cream. It would scare the crap out of you. But yeah, okay. These are the tangents my mind gets on, people. I can't help it. Then this one is an interesting, this one's called Kelp, which is perfect for like a sea theme because it's kind of brownish, olive green, different shades of light green, kind of a yellowish brown, kind of exactly what you would think kelp would look like. That one's not my favorite, but I can see why it would be in a tropical theme. And then this one I really love. This one is Spearmint. And it's got some yellow green and some like smoky blue gray and all like that. And I just love those colors. And then of course there's the usual DMC suspects. And I think of the DMC flosses that are in this, these have to be my favorites, the teals. I have always been one who said that my favorite color was purple, but I've added a lot of favorite colors to my list recently. I think I just love bright jewel tone colors. I'm not sure I really have a favorite anymore, although I still very much favorite purple. But purple and green have always been my favorite colors, but I've added orange to the list. And I've also added teals. Now, I guess teal might be a natural result of being a fan of green, because there's green and teal, obviously. But these two are my favorite. 991 and 992. I don't really know what the names of those colors are. I could have looked them up before I started this video, but of course, why would I do that? But these are my two favorite DMC colors that are going to be in my in the Hula Girl. And then to top it all off, I bought my beads, which I have to say, these are really pretty little beads. I don't know how I'm going to feel about them after I use them. But for now, I think they're very pretty. It may be that they're prettier in the box than they are when I'm trying to thread them on the needles. But we'll see. This will only be the second piece I've stitched with beads, I think. Either the second or the third, I can't really remember. But there is 72008 bugle beads, which are a lovely kind of spearminty, kind of bluish green. Then there's 72045, which is kind of iridescent. These beads remind me of the color of like oil in an oil slick in a puddle, because it's got the green and the purple and the iridescent. Those are really pretty. These, I do remember the name of these is root beer. And they're teeny little seed beads. That should be fun to work with. I'm glad I got over myself and finally started wearing readers to stitch with. I don't need them for anything else, but for that, yeah, kind of. And then these are Magnifica glass beads from Mill Hill, and they're a beautiful cherry red. And then there's a couple of Crystal Treasures from Mill Hill that are just like little flower beads that I think might go in her hair or something. I'd have to look at the pattern again. So this is a really pretty little kit, and I'm looking forward to starting it. Hopefully, if I can make major headway on Nutty Parade and Marie, get those knocked out, I will do another video that's a whip update. I have been stitching quite a bit due to the Stitching Olympics challenge, not the one on Stitch Mania, although what I'm doing could qualify for that one too. But there's a blogger I follow, and it's funny because I forgot that I followed her blog, but she's someone that I've done pen paling with because we both use fountain pens. Excuse me for throwing this in front of my face here. And we actually became pen pals through fountain pen use before we even knew each other cross-stitched and blogged. And so she's doing a stitching challenge, and she had it basically boiled down to, you could either do what she called a distance challenge where you just focus on one piece, a color challenge where you stitch either in the colors of the rings or your nation's flag, or one where you worked on your rotation. So I kind of had pieces that went with all of that, because my focused like marathon piece would be Nutty Parade, and the Mary A would fit the stitch in the colors of your nation's flag, and it would also fit in with the rotational sprint. So I will do a video and show you all that later, but for now I just wanted to share all and hopefully enable others. So that was the fabric that I bought for that one, and the thread. So that was that, and then I kind of in July, as an early birthday present to myself, I treated myself to some floss, some DMC floss off the commonthread.us site. One thing I did, it was funny, because my husband, I had mentioned he was out of town, and that night that he was coming back was the debacle, the Southwest debacle, which at least was not as bad as the Delta one yesterday, but it was the same type thing. Power outage caused massive flight delays. And I was working on, it's a piece that I have with me that I primarily work on at work. That was, it's the Ink Circles Breast Cancer Women Awareness Mandala. And I'm doing that for a friend of mine who's about halfway through breast cancer treatment now. And then I decided, for some reason after Bill got back, the weekend after he got back, I got on this floss organization kick. Now, I never used to have any organization to my floss whatsoever. I mean, it was bad. I used to be one of those people when I was first starting out that I didn't really have any concept of keeping a stash, which I know sounds weird, but I would just have a pattern in a book that I had. I'd write down all the threads, even if they were ones that I still had from a previous project, and I would just go buy thread, buy fabric. And eventually it got to where I had all my floss in little Ziploc bags, separated out by color, because I guess I thought that if I was going to use the floss again, it would be easier to find it by color, which it wasn't. And it wasn't until a few years ago that I decided to bobbinize all my floss. Now, I have to admit I do this because I'm deaf to floss skeins. I mentioned that in my first video. I do bobbinize because, crocheters and knitters understand the concept of yarn barf, where you buy a skein of yarn and it's supposed to simply be pull from the center, and you've got your, work from the center of the skein. But for me, with yarn and with cross-stitch thread, it never works that way. I always end up pulling it, getting a massive knot. It looks like something a cat puked up or something. I mean, so I wind all my thread on bobbins, and basically I think I was looking for some thread to kit up a project, and I realized that my bobbin boxes were all discombobulated, so I wanted to organize everything, and then I got the X-Stitch app and started putting all my floss in there. So this leads me a little bit off my point here for a minute, but I had a question for my viewers. When you're organizing your floss stash, have you ever noticed that you tend to have a lot more of one number or one color in your stash than, say, the rest of it? I don't know how to describe it, but like when I was going through my stash, I noticed that I had a lot of 2 and 300s, and then a lot of 7 through 900s, and I was kind of missing a lot of the numbers in the middle, except for like the usual like 400, like 414 and all those browns that you end up collecting. And I was thinking about it, and I think that there was a time where I went through in my early stitching life where I was stitching a lot of baby stuff. I made both my niece and nephew a quilt. A lot of, back in the day, a lot of the coaches were younger and starting families, so I would stitch baby bibs and things for their children. Nowadays, all the coaches' kids are in college, and, that kind of thing. But back then I stitched a lot of baby stuff. And then I must have gone through a phase where I did a lot of like florals or something, because I've got a lot of like what I would call landscape colors. So, excuse me. So I just decided that I wanted to enhance my floss stash so that, you know, when I go through and I'm trying to put together a kit, I have most of what I need. And I at least have enough to start with, and then if I have to go to Michael's, I can just do that as a one-off. So the collections I ordered were the Jacquard collection, the Degas collection. And the Jacquard collection is a lot of muted colors, I would say. They're really pretty. There's a lot of, as you can see in this, there's a lot of like teals and flesh tones. I'm looking at 754 right now, which I really didn't need because I think I have like 10 754s, but that's okay. Now I have 11. It's good. It's good to have flesh tones in your stash, I think. And then there's like a lot of grays and browns, and there's this one 501, which is really pretty. It's kind of like a slate. I don't know what you would call this color. I would call it like a slate gray or like a Colonial Williamsburg blue, because it's kind of like a bluish gray. It's real pretty. So I would say if you're looking to enhance your floss with earth tones, the Jacquard collection would be the way to go. Because even the reds are very muted. They're like cranberry reds and things. They're not bright and flashy. But if you want bright and flashy, you would go with the Degas collection. Now, I don't know if I'll ever use some of these pinks, but you gotta, I mean, I'm not a pink person. But, come on, these, if I ever have the yen to stitch anything pink again, first of all, 718, that magenta, that would just be so, like, that would sear your eyeballs, but in a good way. And then 3804, which is kind of a pinkish, and then there's this kind of 3609, which is kind of like a purplish pink. I can't really describe that one, but it's, but my favorites of this whole schlemiel of thread that I've got to wind on bobbins now. You know, there's a lot of the oranges, which I love. Like I said, orange is becoming one of my favorite colors. But this appeals to my inner teal peacock blue fan. And one of my favorite fountain pen inks is called Kujaku, which I mentioned in the fabric dyeing, which is like a peacock blue. That's like one of those greens that that has more on the blue side than the yellow. Look at these. These are freaking insanely awesome. I'm glad I bought the Degas collection for the blues alone. I mean, can you see it okay? Yeah, I'm pretty sure my camera focuses, but anyway, I mean, how can you not, even if you're never going to stitch anything with these colors, I'm just all about bright colors, and these blues, these 5 blues, 3765, 995, 3845, 3844, 3843, and 996. I mean, these are just worth the price of admission alone, ladies and gentlemen. And I hope, I mean, who knows? If I ever did Death by Cross Stitch, I think I would have to choose one of these shades of blue, but I'm not insane enough to put myself through Death by Cross Stitch. I'm so proud of every single Flosstuber out there doing Death by Cross Stitch, because I just couldn't. I couldn't for the same reason I couldn't do a Haid. I am a patient person to a point, but I would go well past that point with either a Haid or I just, hats off to all of you Flosstubers who can do Death by Cross Stitch. But I just love I mean, the Degas colors are more up my alley because they're bright. But I can totally see that the muted earth tones have a place in a floss kit too. And there's a lot of really pretty, like 349 is kind of a muted reddish orange. I mean, there's a lot of really pretty things in here. I have to say, I don't think I've ever used this color, but this is one that I really like out of the Jacquard collection. It's 955, and I can't recall if I've ever used it, but it's a lovely little mint green. I mean, it's really pretty. So I think, you know, of course, the price of the thread, some people might say, is cost prohibitive. And they do send you a few little goodies, like they sent Stitch Bow. I doubt I'd ever use the Stitch Bow organizer because I bobbinate all my threads. So, but they sent Stitch Bow holders and bobbin cards. And you know, I don't care about the extra stuff. I just think that if you want to enhance your stash, it's a good way to do it. The other thread that I bought just made me flippin' swoon. I mean, I bought the Colores threads. Now, I don't know if I'll ever stitch anything with variegated thread. I've got a couple of projects that I probably could, but these are so freaking gorgeous, people. If you are as addicted to color as I am, you got to add these to your stash. Now, you could just buy them one at a time, I guess, but where's the fun in that, Flosstube? You don't want to just buy one skein of thread at a time. Now, the thing about these is, for those of you who don't know or who are new to cross stitching, these are threads that contain 4 colors in one skein. So the thing is when you stitch with variegated thread, you have to get the ultimate variegation, you have to stitch each stitch at one at a time, which goes counter to everything I've been taught. You know, make all your half stitches come back across the row, because I'm a cross-country stitcher. So the thought process behind doing variegated thread one stitch at a time makes perfect sense, because it's the same thing people who knit socks talk about, that if the colorway is too long in the thread, you end up with just stripes. But if you want true variegation, you need yarn that has smaller colorways. And that's why you would stitch one stitch at a time, to keep the colorways short enough that you would actually see the variegation. Now, I'm doing, like I mentioned, the breast cancer ribbon, breast cancer awareness mandala. That's the free pattern from Ink Circles. And, you know, I started out stitching every single stitch, and then I experimented a little bit and did a few in a row. And to me, it's the Carrie's Creations thread, which is hand-dyed silk, hand-dyed variegated silk. To me, I don't see a whole lot of difference either way you do it. But I don't know how it would be for this thread yet, but I'm going to have fun experimenting with it. I'll try to find like a silhouette pattern or something that I can do. But I thought I'd share my favorite ones with you. They've got such great names. I mean, they've got names like Columbine Gardens, Camellia, Wisteria, Hydrangea, London, Indian Summer, States. The States one is my favorite because, of course, you know, like I've said a million times, anything Americana, red, white, and blue, that is just, this just screams to do something for the 4th of July next year with it. Then let me see, what is my other favorite one? It's Hydrangea, I just gotta find it. This one is actually pretty cool. It's very muted. It's called North Wind, and let's see if I can find a way to hold it so it's not right. It's very hard to see from the computer, but it's pale blue, pale purple, some like pastel yellow and brown. It's really the colorways that they came up with for these things. It's awesome. This one is wacky. I would probably not have anything I would use this for, but it's awesome to look at. It's called Maple, and it's like orange and brown and bright yellow and just craziness, people. I'm telling you, I am addicted to color, which I guess it's a good thing I cross-stitch. Let's see, what is this one? This one is wicked cool. This one would be cool for and I can't believe I just said that, but yeah, okay. What color is this? 4507. Oh, this is Bougainvillea, which is a very pretty little tropical type flower. This one is like pink and teal and dark blue and lavender. It's so awesome. What's this one? 4511. Oh, this one's Indian Summer. This one honestly reminds me of how, you know, you get the colored corn with all the different colored kernels in it. That's what this one reminds me of. It's like orange and pumpkin orange and brown and like a maize colored yellow and some like really strange green. I mean, it's got potential. I don't know what I would use it for, but well, half the fun is trying to figure things out. 4502 is Wildflowers. That's a bit too pinky Tuscadero for me to be interested in stitching with, but I suppose if you like pink, that's the one to use. Let's see, where is the hydrangea? That's the one I really want to see because hydrangeas are so pretty. Ah, this one. This one is hydrangea. It's kind of wine, like a Bordeaux wine color with some pink and some brown. It doesn't really much make me think of hydrangeas because when I think of hydrangeas, I think of purple. Because the year before I got married, I went to the grocery store and bought my mom a little potted hydrangea. And it was one of those purple ones that's kind of like the pastel purple with the little white in it. And she planted it, and 18 years later, it's like a massive thing that has the hydrangea snowballs all over it every spring, she says. So I think more of purple, but that's pretty though. It's got potential in something like fall related. I would use the hydrangea because it's got that plum colored, like a Bordeaux wine color. What is this one? Oh, this one is elves. Elves, like Christmas elves. This one is really kind of funky. I like this one. It's not your traditional Christmas colors, but I guess if you think of elves, they're kind of funky, you know. It's got some pink and some orange and some gray, and then like a deep, like magenta pink. But these are all really pretty. These are ones I could see myself using in a number of different like silhouette patterns. And there's not really one that's, I wouldn't say there's one that's ugly. There's a couple in here I might not use. Like this one is 4509. This is Granite Coast. And this one, I'm going to get this to where, yeah, over there. If I go to the right, it moves to the left, and you maybe can see it better. This one has pink and olive green. These are all really pretty. I have to say my favorite is the States one, though. That's the patriotic one. This one is Jingle Bells. Now this one's more like a winter color. It's like several different shades of red and a black, or like a pewter, like a steel gray, I guess. It's not black, it's like gray. That one has potential too. All of these do, but some of them more so than others. This one is Wildflowers. That might be a little too pastel-y. I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. It's like a... This one again reminds me of Rainbow Sherbet. It's, there I go again calling it sherbet, but okay. It's got like sherbet colored orange, yellow, lime green, and a little bit of a pink. But these are all really beautiful. And I think if you decided to buy the pack, you would not be disappointed. There's a lot of really inventive colorways, and I'm really pleased with these. I might not have anything to use them on right away, although I do have one. I wouldn't stitch it till next year, but it's a silhouette of the nativity scene, and I've stitched it before. As I stitched it when I was on unemployment one year, I had, you know, some spare fabric in my stash, and I stitched it and donated it to our church's craft fair, only to be told, well, it would have sold for more if you had framed it. And it was like, well, yeah, but do you happen to have the money to get it framed? No, because I don't either. I'm on unemployment, so. But I would do that again, and I would try one of the holiday colorways just to spice it up a little bit. So when I ordered my thread, I ordered the, now everybody has seen, DMC color card with the actual thread samples. And even if I never did a color conversion Folks, I could just sit here and drool at this puppy. I mean, this is just like, for someone who's a color addict, and there's got to be some kind of scientific term for that, I assume. But for someone who's a color addict like me, I could just sit and drool over these colorways. Even the colors I don't much care for, like the browns. It's still exquisite. And it goes all the way up through, it's got the light effects, which are the newer threads, and it's got the cotton pearl and the metallic. The light effects floss, color variations, which I do have the color variations. I do have the color variations threads that are here in this part of the, I do have those, because apparently I must have bought the variegated thread when they came out in the packs that you can buy at Michael's, because I found them in my stash and I forgot I had them. But those are like the 4,500 numbers, so they're relatively new. Now, the main reason I got this is because I think next year, I know that I had signed up for the Teresa Winsler Stitch Along, saying that I was going to do Tempest in a Teacup, because I have that one kitted. But I think what I might do is I might do Future Cast, which is the dragon that's holding the crystal ball in its talons. Because I've always wanted to try my hand at designing my own colors for a pattern. And Teresa Winsler specifically designed Future Cast so that the stitcher would create the colorways for the piece. And I'm thinking I want to do purple and green because those are my two favorite colors. But I'm really bad with colors. I mean, like, I even noticed that when I used to crochet. I knew what colors I thought would go well together, but they didn't necessarily. So I'm thinking that the color card will help me pick out my flosses and make good choices so that I'm not sitting there thinking, that looks weird when I finish it. But I do have a confession to make. This piece, yes, that's Nutty Parade thrown on my sofa. I was stitching on it before I left the house to go to work today, and I did not exactly leave. It's my stash and my hoops fabric. I should not leave the hoop on the fabric on that one. But I'm digressing, as I always do. I always digress at some point. Basically, I have a lazy confession to make. Most of them regarding stitching are of the lazy kind. But when I'm stitching on Nutty Parade, this is my bag of, it's got 61 colors in it. I probably bobbinated about half of it, and then I got tired of bobbinating it all, and I was like, I just want to start stitching. I can deal with all the other skeins. You know, I can deal with that. But there's 61 colors in here. And inevitably, when I go to change a color, I fish through this whole thing, and it's always the last one I come to. So I waste so much time just searching for my floss. But with this card, let's say, okay, 3852 is right there. So let's just go with that number. I come to 3852 in the pattern. All I have to do is go to my trusty card, and I look it up, and I say, all right, where's 3852? Where's 3852? Okay, it's over here. So that means it's in column 13. And see, that's the thing. They have it listed by numbers, and then they tell you which column it's in. So 3852 would be in column 13 right here. And where's 3852 is the one on the bottom. So it's a mustard yellow. So, okay, I'm looking for mustard yellow. I don't have to sit here now and fish through every single non-mustard yellow color to find what I need. So it makes it a whole lot quicker to go through my threads. Like I said, it's a lazy confession, but it is true. I am lazy with that sort of thing. So I can look up 3852 and I know which one I need. And then I don't have to sit there and drive myself nuts with the 3852 being the 61st color I come to, which is the way it was before I got the card. So this is an invaluable reference tool in many ways, and I think I'm going to have fun trying to put together Future Cast and see what I can come up with. There are so many awesome dark purples down here. Like, $7.91 is so purplish blue, it's almost black. I love, 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 love that color. It reminds me of my new favorite fountain pen ink, which is a story for a non-Flosstube related post or video. But I have a feeling that column number 5 with all the purples is going to become my new best friend if I do future cast anytime soon. And so my last little piece of stash, which I have accumulated over the summer, is one that I have to admit I have such a weakness for birds. And a lot of it comes from the fact that I put up a bird feeder a couple of months ago, and being in a basement apartment, it's right at our window. So any of the birds on the ground, they're right at eye level. And I've just had so much fun watching them. And anyone who's ever stitched a cardinal of any kind and posted it on Stitch Mania gets to hear about how much cardinals are my favorite birds. We have a cardinal couple that I call Louie and Lilia. Louie wasn't the most original because I was thinking of the Louisville Cardinals, and then I was like, okay, Louie. There you go. So we have this one little couple that comes, and they usually come either first thing in the morning before the sun totally comes up, or they're the last ones on the feeder at dusk. And sometimes they're together, most of the times they're not. Louie always announces his presence by chirping. So I always hear him, and then I'm like, oh, it's Louie, and I go to the window and watch him, and they're so sweet. They're just beautiful. I don't know. They're just my favorite of the feeder birds. It's my favorite bird that I'm never going to see is an emperor penguin. But as far as feeder birds go, the cardinals are my favorite. State bird of Virginia, the Commonwealth of Virginia, where I grew up. They're just beautiful. I mean, the reds, the colors in the males are just exquisite. And the females are actually quite colorful too, considering they're mostly brown, but they've got like a streak of orange on their belly, and they have the little comb that's bright orange. I mean, like neon orange. So when I was messing around on Amazon, just looking for cross stitch, the winter cardinals, had to have it. There's no other way around it. This pattern, this is right up my alley. And I'm actually going to call it Louie and Lilia, not Winter Cardinals, which is the actual name of the kit. But, yeah, I mean, this is awesome. Okay, now, that just freaked me out. But I just heard water gurgling up through the pipe under my kitchen sink, and I haven't run the dishwasher. So I don't know what's going on, folks, but that's a little weird. I swear we do have a poltergeist in our kitchen, though, because every once in a while the recycling, because we have single stream recycling in our apartment complex, and so we just throw all our cans, paper, plastic, all the recycling into a garbage bag and take it out to the dumpster. And I swear to you, sometimes the recycling bag just flips itself over. And you can't tell me it's not something over there doing it, but the expensive sounding like in that case, I do believe we have a poltergeist in our kitchen. Anyway, that was creepy. But anyway, so, yeah, this pattern kit, so sweet. This is just gonna, oh, but it's Louie and Lilia. And the thing that I like about it is that all the floss is already on the cards, and the cards tell you which number, have the numbers. So it's not a huge mess. Because a lot of times kits, they just give you the hank of thread, and it's like, excuse me, how am I supposed to sort this out? But the nice thing about this one is it's already sorted, so, it's up to you to just start it. And it's nice. It's a 16, is it a 16 count Aida? Yeah, it's a 16 count Aida, which would make it 15 by 9 inches. I don't know if I would stitch that on linen or not. If I could find the right color, it's called Dove Gray. It looks kind of bluish to me, but I don't know. I might stitch it on the fabric, and if I ever actually get my Silk Weavers Fabric of the Month Club and it was something appropriate. Yeah, the Silk Weavers thing, it kind of pisses me off because I didn't realize it, and earlier in June, I guess it was at the beginning, no, it was in July, I decided I would do some stash enhancement and sign up for the Silk Weavers Fabric of the Month Club, because I'd seen a lot of floss tubers use Silk Weavers fabric that really, just looked really, really nice with their pieces. And I thought, well, I mean, if I get a fabric of the month, then I can build up my stash in no time, and then I always have something nice to stitch on, regardless of what it is I'm stitching. And so they took my money in July. It was July 15th was my first month. And they took the money, because I did the 2 fat quarters of 32 count linen, which is, I think, $40. So they took the money, and I hadn't seen hide nor hair of it. And I realized that they were on vacation, but this is kind of where I'm with Stitcherista. Okay, I get that you were on vacation, that's fine. But I emailed them, and they said last week that they would be going out on the 1st. And I still haven't gotten my July fabric yet. Now, they haven't taken any money from my August one. And I shouldn't even probably be talking about this, because I don't want to sound like I'm bashing silk weavers. For all I know, they're a small mom and pop who, has a sudden influx of customers, which is great. I love to support small businesses. But for me, it's just, they're in New Jersey. I'm in Massachusetts. I mean, come on. I can drive from here to New Jersey in about 8 hours plus. I mean, it depends on how much traffic I get stuck in New York, but I can drive from here to New Jersey in, say, 10 hours. So I'm a little bit frustrated. And I just hope it's a one-off. That's all I'm going to say. And, I mean, if it takes a month or so to get the fabric, then, I'm willing to wait. There's nothing I need it for right now, but I'm kind of a Stitcherista. I kind of want my fabric so I can plan future projects, because who knows what I'll start when. I mean, I'm trying not to start anything new right now, which hasn't entirely been successful, but I'll show you the unintentionally intentional whip I have that I've added to my stitching collection now. But I'm just frustrated, because if it's a fabric of the month club, you should have it to the person within that month. I mean, it's already almost halfway through August, and it's been almost a month since they took the money for the July thing, which is fine. I understand people go on vacation, but still, it seems to me like even with them being on vacation, I should have probably already gotten it by now. And I don't know. I don't know what the situation at Silk Weavers is. Maybe they're understaffed, but that's really not an excuse in business. I mean, I know people who run small businesses who are making over $1 million in sales, and they've had to hire people, but they've hired enough people to keep up with the demand. So I don't know. I'm a little frustrated by that, but I'll get over it if I ever actually get the fabric. So that was the only other stash that I had that has not arrived yet. Oh, before I go, I forgot about this little cute girl. I got into looking at needle minders on Etsy, and this is from Planet Vonnie Chops in the UK. And isn't my little Matryoshka so cute? I love all things Russian. I know you've probably heard me say that before. Or maybe I haven't. I don't know. At this point, I really have no clue what I've said or what I haven't said in my videos. But I absolutely adore all things Russian. I mean, don't get it, because that's not my ethnic makeup, but actually Irish, French, and English, but yeah, that's a combo unto itself. But I've had this affinity for all things Russian for quite a long time, and I bought the Russian Icons Clouds factory pattern. And when I saw that she had this the Planet Vonnie Chops had this little Matryoshka doll, I just was like, oh, I gotta have that. So that's a cute little needle minder. But that's all the haul that I have for now and for the foreseeable future. I don't think I'm going to buy anything for the rest of the year. I mean, I've got to finish. The only money I'll be spending on my stitching is finishing off the Wine a Bit for my sister, finishing off Marie, and finishing Nutty Parade. That's the only expenditures I plan to make for the rest of the year. So, anyway, I hope I didn't bore the heck out of you. I want to thank you all again. I've gotten 156 subscribers in a little less than a month, which I'm just amazed by that, because at first I didn't even think I had anything remotely relevant to say that anybody would want to listen to. And then when there were that many people who wanted to listen to me, it was really exciting. I do appreciate all the support, because like I've said, I don't have any stitchy friends in my immediate sphere of influence. So it's nice to have people I can just sit and have a one-sided conversation with. And I like to think you're back there talking back to me, because sometimes I talk back to Flosstube. Depending on who I'm watching, if they say something, it's like, I respond. It's a good thing I watch Flosstube when I'm by myself, or else, good grief, what's going on up there? Somebody's moving into the apartment upstairs from us, and they've been banging around off and on for the past 2 days. But they're still better than the pot smokers up on the 3rd floor who were smoking pot last night at 11:45 outside. So we had our window cracked because it was a cool evening last night. It was like 58 degrees. And so we had our window cracked, and all of a sudden I'm laying there, and I rolled over to my husband and I said, "They're back, aren't they?" He's like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "The pot smokers." He's like, "What?" "Oh, yes, they are back." And so we just had to shut the window. But I don't know. Somebody's moving in up there and banging things around. But that's the life of living in an apartment complex that is primarily inhabited by college kids. This time of year, everybody starts moving back in, and it gets crazy. So anyway, but I do really appreciate all the support and all the sweet comments. And I'd love to hear any observations you have about your own floss habits. Do you tend towards certain colors or certain numbers, or, what colors do you have the most of or the least of? I have so much 754, I could probably stitch the entire Mormon Tabernacle Choir in all their glory and not have to worry about getting any more floss. But that's just the thing that happens. And like I said, I used to always go buy floss for every new project, and so that was not very smart of me. But at least in my old age, I'm wising up and learning how to handle my stash. But anyway, I will put the links to the Etsy patterns below. And I hope you enjoyed this, and I will be back soon. I will have a whip update. And until then, I wish you good stitching and a good life. See you later.